Shri Atirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Sachit Sukha Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. Salutations to the sage Swami Vivekananda, King of renouncers, the embodiment of existence, knowledge, and bliss, and the destroyer of misery. Good morning, everyone. On this rainy morning, we had a very nice song this morning also. We'll be continuing with the topic we began last month, Swamiji's beautiful poem, The Song of the Sannyasin. I'll start by reading the song. You'll hear the recitation of the poem each time. Don't get bored with it. Some of our centers, they recite it every morning. So it's something that can be read over and over and over again. Wake up the note, the song that had its birth far off, where worldly taint could never reach, in mountain caves and glades of forest deep, whose calm no sigh for lust or wealth or fame could ever dare to break, where rolled the stream of knowledge, truth, and bliss that follows both. Sing high that note, Sannyasin bold. Say Om, Tat Sat, Om. Strike off thy fetters, bonds that bind thee down, of shining gold or darker, baser ore. Love, hate, good, bad, and all the dual throng. No, slave is slaved, caressed or whipped, not free. For fetters, though of gold, are not less strong to bind. Then off with them, Sannyasin bold. Say Om, Tat Sat, Om. Let darkness go, the will-o'-the-wisp that leads with blinking light to pile more gloom on gloom. This thirst for life forever quench. It drags from birth to death and death to birth the soul. He conquers all who conquer self. Know this and never yield, Sannyasin bold. Say Om, Tat Sat, Om. Who sows must reap, they say, and cause must bring the sure effect. Good, good, bad, bad, and none escape the law. But whoso wears a form must wear the chain. Too true, but far beyond both name and form is Atman, ever free. Know thou art that, Sannyasin bold. Say Om, Tat Sat, Om. They know not truth, who dream such vacant dreams as father, mother, children, wife, and friend. The sexless self, whose father he, whose child, whose friend, whose foe is he who is but one. The self is all in all, none else exists. And thou art that, Sannyasin bold. Say Om, Tat Sat, Om. There is but one, the free, the knower, self, without a name, without a form or stain. In him is Maya dreaming all this dream. The witness, he appears as nature, soul. Know thou art that, Sannyasin bold. Say Om, Tat Sat, Om. Where seekest thou that freedom, friend, this world nor that can give? In books and temples vain thy search. Thine only is that hand that holds the rope that drags thee on. Then cease lament, let go thy hold, Sannyasin bold. Say Om, Tat Sat, Om. Say peace to all, from me no danger be to aught that lives, and those that dwell on high, and those that lowly creep. I am the self in all. All life, both here and there, do I renounce, all heavens and earths and hells, all hopes and fears. Thus cut thy bonds, Sannyasin bold. Say Om, Tat Sat, Om. Heed then no more how body lives or goes. Its task is done. Let karma float it down. Let one put garlands on, another kick this frame. Say naught. No praise or blame can be where praiser praised and blamer blamed are one. Thus be thou calm, Sannyasin bold. Say Om, Tat Sat, Om. Truth never comes where lust and fame and greed of gain reside. No man who thinks of woman as his wife can ever perfect be, nor he who owns the least of things, nor he whom anger chains can ever pass through Maya's gates. So give these up, Sannyasin bold. Say Om Tat Sat Om. Have thou no home? What home can hold thee, friend? The sky thy roof, the grass thy bed, and food what chance may bring, well cooked or ill, judge not. No food or drink can taint that noble self which knows itself. Like rolling river free thou'lt ever be, Sannyasin bold. Say Om Tat Sat Om. Few only know the truth, the rest will hate and laugh at thee, great one. But pay no heed. Go thou the free from place to place, and help them out of darkness, Maya's veil. Without the fear of pain or search for pleasure, go beyond them both, Sannyasin bold. Say Om Tat Sat Om. Thus, day by day, till karma's power spent, release the soul forever. No more is birth, nor I, nor thou, nor God, nor man. The I has all become, the all is I and bliss. No, thou art that, Sannyasin bold. Say Om Tat Sat Om. Last month, we saw a little bit of the background. This, of course, was written when Swamiji was in Thousand Island Park, just on the Canadian and the New York border. And he had just given vows of renunciation to 3 of the devotees who were there. So he was inspired by that. Otherwise, it's a little scary when we first hear this. There's so much emphasis on Advaita Vedanta and on complete renunciation. But Swamiji meant it to be useful and helpful and valuable for everybody, so we have to kind of put it through a filter a little bit so that it's applicable for all of us. So last time we went through that first verse. Today we'll look at the second two verses. I'll read them again. Strike off thy fetters, bonds that bind thee down, of shining gold or dark or baser ore. Love, hate, good, bad, and all the dual throng. No slave is slaved, caressed or whipped, not free. For fetters, though of gold, are not less strong to bind. Then off with them, Sannyasin bold. Say Om Tat Sat Om. Let darkness go, the will of the wisp that leads with blinking light to pile more gloom on gloom. This thirst for life forever quench. It drags from birth to death and death to birth the soul. He conquers all who conquers self. Know this and never yield, Sannyasin bold. Say Om Tat Sat Om. These 2 verses deal with one of the main themes of Vedanta, bondage. We have bondage and, of course, liberation, but there are various types of bondage. We know that bondage that we talk about that keeps us from attaining the highest illumination, from ending this road, this constant coming and going, birth and death, that bondage which keeps us from having that highest type of realization. But there's another type of bondage which we feel every moment. Not that bondage which will keep us from final liberation, but that bondage which we feel as a type of spiritual bondage which kind of gnaws at us. I think everybody feels this a little bit, that we were living in some type of state of spiritual darkness or confusion or ignorance, where we don't really know where we've come from, where we're going, why we're here, what the purpose of life is. And it keeps us in a state where we cling to things and where we try to find some deeper meaning in external things, and really, we can say trapped in Maya. This is a basic feeling that we know that there's some truth to our own being that's hidden from us. We know there's some deeper truth to this world and to life, but we don't know exactly what it is. And we feel it as a type of this spiritual, lack of spiritual awareness is also a type of bondage. Then also, I think all of us feel to some extent the bondage of not being in control of our own emotions, our own desires, that somehow there's a type of slavery that we have to our own personality. We're all slaves to our own personality on a certain level. And these are old tendencies that we have that we don't like even, to be grabbing for things, to be possessive, to be jealous of other people, to suffer from anger. All of these things give us this feeling that we're not in control. This is also a type of bondage that we have, that our own nature is somehow preventing us from breaking through. We have a very strong verse in Gita where Sri Krishna says that even the wise person suffers from this, that everybody, somehow we're condemned to follow our own nature. Nigraha kim karishiti. How much good does it come from even fighting against this? These deep-seated samskaras and tendencies. Of course, we have to fight against them, and we can change them to a certain extent, but this is also a type of bondage. So these are very difficult things to control, the ordinary mood changes, ups and downs that we go through, and all of these are based on something which we call the pairs of opposites, dvandvas. This is one of the themes of these two verses. So we read that. Strike off thy fetters, bonds that bind thee down, of shining gold or dark or baser ore. So some of them will appear to us as very positive things, some as very negative things. Love and hate. So one, of course, we think, why worry about this bondage of the good thing? We want to worry about the bondage of the bad thing. Good, bad, all the dual thrown. No slave is slave, caressed or whipped, not free. For fetters, though of gold, are not less strong to bind, then off with them, Sannyasin bold. Say Om Tat Sat Om. This is one of the great themes of the Bhagavad Gita. When we go through Gita, we see how much emphasis is given to these pairs of opposite dvandvas. And in life, we find that we don't get one without the other. If there are ups, there are downs. If there's success, there'll be failure. That they go almost cyclically, like the wave, it'll go up and it'll go down. There's victory and defeat, praise and blame. So this is very strongly emphasized here to such an extent that we can almost look at this Swamiji's poem as a type of commentary on Gita, on this particular teaching of the Gita. So we can look at this whole samsara in terms of these aggregates, these pairs of opposites, and the challenge is, how do we deal with them? How do we react to them? And this will determine, to a great extent, how happy we are in this world, how much freedom we feel, how much, on the other hand, how much bondage, how much we feel out of control, how much we feel that we're being tossed around by the external ups and downs and internal reactions. So all of this will go back to these pairs of opposites. So we'll find a tremendous emphasis in Gita, as I say, on how do we deal with them? What do we do with this phenomenon that sometimes things are good, sometimes things are bad? Everything is nice and sweet, it's not a difficulty. But we get too involved in the nice things, then we suffer more from the bad things. So how do we deal with all of these things? So we find two concepts in the Gita which are similar. They're not exactly different, but one is to somehow make these pairs of opposites the same in our minds. Not make such a big distinction, because ordinarily, if something is bad, we're unhappy. Something is good, we're happy. If we can learn not to react to either one, and it's some type of evenness, so making the pairs of opposites the same in our eyes. So this is one technique, we can say. And the other, another term that we find in the Gita, dvandvatita, to go beyond, to transcend, to even not see things in terms of these pairs of opposites, but to try to go beyond this realm of duality, which means somehow get centered in some higher realm, in that ultimate reality that dwells within us as the higher self. So when we look at these pairs of opposites, one thing we notice is that one is clearly positive and one is clearly negative. So we won't have any problem recognizing them, although we may fool ourselves. The things that we think are good turn out to be bad and vice versa. But at least they present them that way, that one leads to sukha, the other leads to dukkha. If we're successful in something, then we should be happy. Ordinarily, we'll assume that. If we fail, we should be unhappy. This is the way the mind works, this automatic type of reaction. And this is the reason why we can look at it as a type of bondage, because we're not choosing our reaction. It is something that's determined for us by these external things and by the nature of our own mind. So, somebody says something that we don't like, and automatically our feelings get hurt. That somebody praises us, automatically we feel, oh, how nice. And in both cases, we're not the ones choosing. That is something automatic and something based on external things and our own samskaras and our own desires of our own ego. That we want to have people praise us. We want to be successful in everything. So this is the sense in which we can call this a type of bondage. Any automatic reaction of the mind means that we did not control that reaction. We feel disappointment, we feel miserable, we have physical pain, we suffer. A point comes when we realize that we don't have to be part of this equation, that we don't have to, for example, physical suffering, we don't have to be miserable when we don't feel good. We can be happy in the midst of pain. We have to have this type of realization that we can be at least even-minded when we lose something bad happens to us. We don't have to be miserable. That this is a little bit up to us, and we don't, very often we don't understand that. We're in a bad mood. And somebody says, why are you in such a bad mood? I said, don't you see, I don't feel good today. I woke up with a bad cold, a head cold. So don't expect me to be nice and sweet today. We don't realize that we can easily be nice and sweet in the midst of all of these things. There's a kind of a choice that we have. I very often refer to, there's one verse from the Brihad Upanishad that I like very much. This, Atmanam chet vijaniyat ayam asmiti purushaha kimichan kasya kamaya shariram anusam jwaret. That if our goal in life is to realize the real nature of the self, then what's the point? For what purpose, with what desire, what could possibly impel us to want to suffer along with the suffering of the body? Because I won't say it's 100% a choice, because naturally the mind reacts that way, but if we have a higher spiritual goal, if we want to convince ourselves that I am the self, I'm not this body, I'm not this mind, then why let these external things determine our mood for the day? So, our Swami Swahananda, he used to say, how does it go? Misery is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Something like that. So that type of idea. So this is the negative side, we can say, of these pairs of opposites, what Swamiji calls it dark or baser ore of hatred, anger, and passions. And these, we feel that type of bondage. But the bonds of gold that Swamiji talks about, not iron or steel, but of gold, these are the subtle things and easier to mistake as something positive. Easier to think this is really the goal of life, that we want to be happy, we want to be successful, we want people to praise us. We had an old monk in Trabuco that he used to say, yeah, now I've conquered everything about praise, I'm still working on blame. So we can easily do that, people, but we don't understand that they're pairs of opposites, but it's a pair, that it's the same subtle problems will attend even this type of praise that we get. So it's subtle. This is why Swamiji says that these are bonds of gold. We think that these are nice adornments for us, but they're also hanging around our neck. So if we want to be free from that reaction of disappointment, or frustration, or whatever, if we fail at something or someone criticizes us, we have to learn not to get too excited when things go our way, and not to be too puffed up and proud when people praise us. So this is that, we saw that automatic reaction when things don't go right. When things go right, we get a little praise, a little success, then we feel how wonderful everything is, and we take a little joy even in things that may mean that other people lost. We win, somebody loses. This is what I call the Southwest Airlines phenomenon. Everybody wants to get a good seat. As quick as they can, they'll hit the button so that they get a good number. Yeah, that means somebody else sits in the back. Yeah. So there's a negative to positive and a negative to everything. So this is that negative side. We come to expect praise, and we get disappointment if we don't get it. And we find ourselves adjusting our behavior to the reaction of other people, so we do things so that they'll be happy with us, and that they'll flatter us and praise us and reaffirm everything about us. And we forget that this isn't the reason why we should do things. We should have some higher purpose, and it shouldn't be that we always want recognition from other people. We have to understand that we're letting even our self-image being determined by other people. If we're always seeking, it doesn't have to be praise, but at least we all want people to like us. We all want people to have a good opinion of us and everything. And sometimes it affects the way we do things. And we become disappointed if we don't get this type of reaction. Now, we have to be very clear that this doesn't mean that we don't seek some type of happiness. We don't try to be successful, victorious in everything that we do, but we shouldn't be too much attached to these things, and we shouldn't suffer too much if we're not successful. We have to roll with the punches. This is really the essence of Gita. Roll with the punches. Don't let yourself be overwhelmed by any of these things. And sometimes we have to surrender our own personal success, chance for praise, satisfaction, happiness, and everything for the greater good or for other people. Even sometimes we have to take blame on ourselves for the sake of somebody else. I'll tell a very interesting story. Some of you may have heard it. With Swami Swahananda, that I had a very delicate situation one time where I had gone back to Trabuco to visit all the old monks there, and one of them was very, very dear to me. He had moved to Santa Barbara, and he was driving down, it's almost 3-hour drive, Santa Barbara to Trabuco, and just to see me, much older than I was, and I was very touched that he was going to do that. That night we were all invited to a devotee's house, and so I called the devotee and said, one of the other monks will be coming. She said, okay. Then she called later and said, it's a very special day for me. It's my birthday, and I have a special list of people. I really only wanted the people that I'm very close to. I hope you don't mind. So now I'm stuck. What am I supposed to do? So I went to Swami Swahananda and I told him, this is my dilemma. What do I do? He said, what can you do? Better that you'll have to explain to him. I said, what can I say? He said, blame me. Yeah. So I was so touched by that he didn't mind that somebody would think that, this head of our center, he doesn't want me to come, so that's why I can't. Just so it would deflect anything from me. Just, it was such a nice, of course, I couldn't do it. I laughed even and everything. He also laughed. But just that idea that we become free from longing for other people to have a good opinion of us. This is also a great type of bondage, that we want everybody to appreciate us and to approve of us. It means a type of really insecurity. And it affects the way that we do things in the world. And we lose that purity of motive. Now, these two chains that we're talking about, this one of gold and one of darker, baser ore, we can see this same teaching in some of the parables that Sri Ramakrishna tells. We have the story of the three thieves. Now, when we talk about sattva, rajas, and tamas, we can say that this sattva is clearly this chain of gold, and this tamas is definitely this darker, baser ore. Rajas will be a little bit of a combination of the two, but it really falls in the camp of the negative side, sattva the positive side. So in this story, we find that you all know the story, but the thief that wants to kill us is tamas. And then the other thief says, no, don't kill this poor man, tie him to a tree. The rajas that binds us. And then sattva, this thief that says, no, let me go back and release him and show him the way out. But they all bind us. This is not just this rajas that binds. They all bind us in different ways. This, again, is one of the themes we find in Bhagavad Gita. We look at chapter 14. It says, tamas is born of ignorance, deluding living beings. It binds through pramada. Pramada, some type of misunderstanding, confusion, of miscomprehension. Alasya, laziness, and nidra, sleep. Rajas is born of passion and gives rise to thirst and attachment. It binds through attachment to action. Now these we understand. Sattva, we think, wow, how does it bind us? This is the interesting one. Sattva binds one through attachment to happiness and knowledge. Why? Because it is stainless, luminous, and free from evil. Now, why should that be a source of bondage? Because we also get attached to that. We get attached to our own goodness, to our own happiness, all of these different things. So, Swamiji gives us a formula on how to get rid of these different types of bondage. And this tamas, we get rid of it through rajas. So if we look at Thakur's story of the thorn, the thorn that's in our foot this is tamas. And we use this rajas thorn to get it out. That also gets lodged in the foot. Then we need sattva. This sattva will take it out. This also is very subtle. This also has to be removed ultimately. But this is the good one. This is the one that we really ultimately have to have. Some people make the very funny mistake of thinking that we should try to somehow transcend sattva. I say funny mistake because we don't have it yet. That we have to utilize this sattva. We have to try to become as sattvic as we can, as good and kind and simple and sweet-natured and everything as possible to overcome all of the others. Then we can worry about going beyond it, if that's even possible. Or another way of looking at this is that there's a fourth thing which we call shuddha sattva, this pure sattva. So in any event, we have to try to increase these qualities of purity, goodness, and knowledge, and eliminate the very subtle binding power of these, so that we don't feel proud of our goodness and kindness and purity and everything. We don't get that type of spiritual pride, because ultimately we have to go beyond this. This is also sattva, also one of the thieves. So we have different methods of doing this. That one thing that we see is this attitude of samatva, evenness, that we try to not let the mind be either negatively or positively affected by anything. Let the mind remain where it is. Let the mind not care about the results of these external things. We do our best, and if it's successful, good. If it's not successful, Okay, what can we do? So it seems almost impossible. Who won't be happy if things turn out the way they want them to turn out? There are people who really have this beautiful spiritual attitude that whatever happens is for the best. We know that the story of the king and his attendant, and the attendant would say, "Oh, king, whatever happens, happens for the best." A long story. Somebody wants to grab hold of them and offer them in sacrifice, but the one had gotten a wound before, so they couldn't use it. And when he got the wound, he thought, this is a bad thing. It turns out it's a good thing. So anyhow, it goes back and forth like that we don't know what is good and what is bad. So this is one thing that we can try to remind ourselves, that what appears to be good may not ultimately be the best thing for us, and what appears to be some almost tragedy sometimes will be the greatest blessing. So we try to maintain this samatvam, this evenness of mind, not getting too high, not getting too low. We find many of these ideas in the Sthita Prajna section, and also in this section of chapter 12 of Gita, where it talks about the qualities of the bhakta. Here it says that we have to be free from not only amarsha, disappointment or anger, but also harsha, joy and elation. So, na harshati, na dveshti, na shochati, na kankshati. Goes through all of these things. Neither rejoicing, nor hating, nor grieving, nor desiring. So, as I said before, it's very easy to give up or to somehow deal with these negative things. But how do we not feel happy when good things? Both are difficult, equally difficult, I should say. That the bad things happen, the mind gets miserable. So then we get this beautiful idea, Shubha Shubha Parityagi. We have to give up all ideas of what is good and what is bad. We have such fixed notions about things. We don't have the power to look into the future and to know what will be helpful and what won't be helpful. I love this poem of Swamiji's, this Angels Unawares. That if you get a chance, you should all look at it, about all the different disappointments and tragedies that take place in somebody's life, and at the end he says, what a great blessing each one was. That some of these tragedies turn us towards leading a spiritual life, that we need some of these things. So we can't say with any certainty that one thing will have the desired effect that we expect from it, and another the undesirable effect. So this Gita continues, we have to be the same to friend and foe. Now, how do we do that? We try to see the divine in all of them. We try to treat everyone with respect and with dignity, no matter how they treat us in return. Everything is tit for tat in ordinary life. Now, it doesn't mean we don't defend ourselves. It doesn't mean that we allow ourselves to be stepped on and walked over like a doormat. But just in general, that there'll be people who will say bad things about us, and we know that, and we say, yeah, they probably have a good reason for it, or at least in their own minds they do. We don't judge them too much. So that, and also the people who praise us, our good friends, God knows what they say about us behind our backs. We know that. The people who praise us one day, and they may do the opposite another day. So this all goes back to that idea that we shouldn't worry too much about the opinion of other people, and that whether people like what we do or don't like what we do will not change the basic value of the things that we're doing. We have to do things because they have some intrinsic value. And whether other people appreciate it or don't appreciate it, we shouldn't adjust our standards and the types of decisions we make based on that. That there should be, as I say, a pure motive for all of these things. And again, that this public opinion is at best fickle and at worst hypocritical. And sometimes people will praise us for things that they actually admire but are jealous of. So we shouldn't count on pleasing the world. It's impossible. If we get some recognition for something that we've done, then a little satisfaction comes. That's not bad. If there's someone that we really respect, and they say, you did a nice thing, then we feel good. That's okay. But just in general, to expect anybody and everybody to always praise us for everything, and then this is bondage. This is the whole point of this. This is a type of bondage. On some level, these are really the attributes of the Sannyasin. Now, we know that this song is specifically for those who give up everything. This perfect evenness of mind and not caring about name and fame, not caring about the opinion of other people. But if we want to have some sense of freedom from bondage, we all have to adopt these things to a certain extent. We can't allow ourselves to be tossed and turned by the winds of public opinion and the whims of other people, and whether they like what we do, they don't like what we do. And the other way of doing this is transcending all of these things. That what do? That we cling to the higher self within, or we have some sense of this antaryamin. So some sense that we want to please God. Now, what does it mean to please God? God doesn't need us to do anything to please Him. It means we act in such a way that we feel that this would be pleasing in the eyes of God. If we want to say that, well, let me think if Thakur and Ma could see the way I'm living my life, that they would be happy. Then I don't care what anybody else thinks. If I have that type of high standard for myself. So this gives us a type of freedom from all sorts of things, from hope and expectation. And it gives us, when we cling to the self, and we know that I'm not this mind and body, and other people are observing external things, it gives us that pillar to hold on to. Thakur talks about if we can swing around without falling, if we have that center, that pillar to hold on to. So this is that second verse. The third verse continues this theme of bondage. Let darkness go, the will-o'-the-wisp that leads with blinking light to pile more gloom on gloom. This thirst for life forever quench. It drags from birth to death and death to birth the soul. He conquers all who conquer self. Know this and never yield, Sannyasin bold. Say Om Tat Sat Om. Yeah, this thirst for life. This is a very big issue. We find this in Swamiji's, another one of his beautiful poems, No One to Blame. He says, I give up hate, I give up love. My thirst for life is gone. Now, it's a very frightening type of idea. It sounds very pessimistic, and on some level, we don't like this. And on some level, it's not even a healthy type of thing. But Swamiji is making a very strong statement. This thirst for life forever quench. Why? Because it leads the soul to one lifetime after another. This desire to what is this thirst for? This desire for enjoyment is really what it's meant. This thirst, that it's something that hasn't been quenched yet. It means we have some desire to fulfill something that remains unfulfilled. So, from a Vedantic point of view, that this indicates several things. One, if we're talking about I want to live longer and longer to have more enjoyment, this is false identification. Right? We enjoy through the senses. We need this body. We put our happiness in the hands of external things, and we have to remind ourselves that we'll lose all of our possessions at the time of death, that this body will be burnt to ashes, that these people that we cling to, that they won't accompany us, this personality, this won't remain, that all of these things, everything is transitory. And the things that we're clinging to won't remain anyhow. So clinging to life on some level means longing for more and more pleasure, more and more experiences, even suffering. Now, this is a curious thing. And I also think this is something innate in every species, animal species, human species, this desire to continue to live no matter how miserable it is. I'm always amazed at how the prisoners who were faced with a life sentence in some horrible prison with no chance of ever getting out, that they'll do everything they can so that they don't face the death penalty. Just to live when there's almost no hope of it being even a human type of life enjoyable, because we feel that there's something special about continuing life regardless of how bad it is. There's those who are in the medical field, they know how people will do anything and sometimes spend a fortune to do last-minute operations and everything. That'll just give them another few weeks, maybe, at the most. Huh? But there's this clinging somehow. And we have to understand that what's behind it, that what are we trying to get out of it? Some pleasure comes even from suffering, just from living. Something comes from that. And, of course, it means that we don't have much faith that there's anything better to come in the future. We all know the story of King Yayati. It's a very well-known story that he got cursed, that he would have the body of an old man, but he wanted to enjoy, so he traded with his son, and he got the boon. He could live 1,000 years, and he could get as much pleasure and enjoyment as possible. And he found that there was no end to it. And there's a very famous verse that says that trying to get rid of all these, to fulfill all my desires by having more and more enjoyment is like trying to pour out a fire by pouring ghee on it. We pour oil on it, it just blazes even greater. So finally he came to his senses and took back his old body and retired into the forest to call on God. We shouldn't need 1,000 years. We should be able to understand that this thirst for life forever quenched. This thirst for life means this desire for enjoyment, really, and somehow fulfilling something through external means, somehow. So this is a question of the mind seeking things, and also not understanding that everything we really need is within us, the self within. This is the other theme of this poem, that the self within is fulfillment if we have that type of realization, and yet it's hidden. It remains hidden from us, and we have to seek for that. We have to dive deep for that. So when Sri Ramakrishna gives the illustration of the maidservant, we have to look at both sides of that. That there's one side is that no attachment to the house and friends and family. They don't really belong to her. But the other thing is that she really has no attachment because she knows that she has something real, that she has her own home in the village, and that's her true nature. So we have to understand it in that sense. Then we get that line about he conquers all who conquers self. Now this means the self with a small s. That doesn't mean the higher self. That higher self is the actual goal. But this means who can control the passions and all the desires of the lower self. That this is really a type of bondage. And we do it over and over again, that we don't learn from the lessons that we should learn, that we keep repeating these, and we keep thinking, no, the next time this will be the real type of fulfillment. And we find that a lot of this is based on fear of death. We don't know what's to come. It's all identification with the lower self. But we really need to have both of these things, that this dispassion dispassion towards the things of the world. Everything is transitory. Everything is for 2 days only. And we have to feel that this little dream of a world, this little mud puddle of a world that I'm giving up, is just a way station, that there's a real ultimate reality that we can attain to that will make this all seem like just a foolish little dream. And yet we want to postpone it. Why? This thirst for life. So a beautiful line that Swamiji has. We shouldn't think that it means that, oh, life's a horrible thing, we want to get out, this and that. No, but there's something greater. And the life he's talking about is this one of constant striving, constant running, never reaching. So Swamiji has that line in another one of his poems. So this is the real meaning of this quenching this thirst for life, that there should be no fear of death, no clinging to life, but feel the joy of the self within. If we feel that, then whether the body remains or doesn't remain, if we know that we're something beyond all of that, it doesn't make any difference. Then we're ready for what comes. There's a very nice saying that they say, my bags are packed and I'm ready to go. I'm waiting for that final call. We should all feel that whether it comes today or tomorrow, yeah. The human mind is a funny thing. I just remembered something from many, many years ago that my grandmother told me, that she lived in a retirement community. In those days we called it an old age home. And her friends were all 80s and 90s. And she told me one day, one of her very close friends, she said she just found out she has a terminal disease. And I'm thinking, oh my God. Everybody has a terminal disease. At that age, how long do you expect to live? But just that, this feeling that somehow, yeah, this is the most wonderful thing, huh? That we all think we'll live forever. Yeah, that idea is in the back of the mind. But if we understand Swamiji's real attitude, that if we understand that this clinging to life is trying to get as much sense pleasure and trying to get as much praise and all of these things, then we understand that it's useless. But there's a better way to live. And I want to close with this very nice statement that Swamiji made to this Robert Ingersoll. This Ingersoll was a well-known orator. He used to give lectures in this country when Swamiji was here. And he was well-known agnostic. He didn't go about preaching atheism or anything, but his belief was enjoy this world. So Swamiji writes, or says, Ingersoll once said to me, I believe in making the most out of this world, in squeezing the orange dry, because this world is all we are sure of. Then Swamiji says, I replied, I know a better way to squeeze the orange of this world than you do, and I get more out of it. I know I cannot die. I know I cannot die, so I am not in a hurry. I know there is no fear, so I enjoy the squeezing. I have no duty, no bondage of wife and children and property. I can love all men and women. Everyone is God to me. Think of the joy of loving man as God. Squeeze your orange this way and get 10,000-fold more out of it. Get every single drop. And this is really what it means to lead a life without bondage. This is a life of freedom. And this is what Swamiji is trying to tell us in all of this. Okay, let us sit for a few minutes.